So let's start by saying that wow, how deep does this go? Because he pretty much talks about how they used us, the feminine, to install the toxic masculine. Let's go, because I got so this isn't it's exciting to me, because it's it's almost, I feel like I'm dismantling, I feel like I'm just stripping off layers, of truth, of my truth, of our heritage. So of that slave psychology, I'm ripping through those layers of that slave mentality. Let's go, let's rip this out, let's figure out. Ooh, y'all almost fell over. I'm let's figure out where all of this is coming from, right? Where does all this separation happen? So he begins by saying that the feminine should be tested multiple times until they can get the feminine to submit. And the way that they would test the feminine is by causing harm and inflicting harm and pain upon their children and their homes or their families, right? Their families, their little niches. And they mention the importance of the feminine in that cycle. So they acknowledge that the feminine is the powerhouse. So what they do is they weaken the feminine's perspective so that they in turn can feel like the masculine is not good enough or cannot perform or do their job. So they demasculated the man in front of the feminine to strip the masculine from their power. Or not even from their power, but to strip the masculine away from the feminine. Originally, what the slave owners noticed was that the feminine would blindly depend on the man to do the right thing and provide for their family. And the woman would blindly just take care of the children and take care of the home, not really ask the man too many questions. There was a very healthy dynamic of family occurring. And not in the way in which we are used to seeing it. We became so conditioned, and I have to say that I fell for this. I fell for this, right? Here I go saying that word again. We have become so conditioned to believe that we have to be a lonely feminine. And yes, it's true. We don't necessarily need a male counterpart. It's true that we, can and will do things on our own without the male counterpart. We've proven all these years that is perfectly able and capable of us. However, does it mean that we should? Because I do think that, and I want to be mindful of what I say in my words right now, because I obviously I don't want to be misinterpreted. I am a very independent female on every sense of the word. And I myself, with my own shadow work, have noticed and picked up points in which this independence can become toxic. And it becomes toxic the moment you feel like you need to demasculate the masculine to validate your independence. I'm talking to you, feminine. I'm talking to you. Ooh, we talking. Ooh, we don't want to hear none of that. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it, okay? I get it. I didn't want to hear it either. All right? It's not about us needing the man. We don't need him. We know we don't. We were all born on our own. We were born by ourselves. There's a God and goddess in all of us. We don't necessarily need each other. However, I do feel that part of the journey is for us to learn to live in harmony with our male counterparts. And right now, I think we can all agree that there's an unhealthy balance. And I know we've been fighting for female equality, women equality, and we're still fighting for it because there are still people who don't deem the opinion of a woman, of the feminine, to be valuable. But I think we can all agree that there's been a really big shift in the past few years where the women have risen, and now a lot of the masculine remain wounded and they are not growing with us. And I believe that we are really digging our own grave in not helping the masculine rise, in demasculating the masculine. It's a hard topic because it's one where we have to practice unconditional love. And before you misinterpret this, I'm not talking about this whole, I come from domestic violence, and I'm not talking about staying with someone who beats you. I'm not talking about unconditionally loving a toxic situation or a toxic someone. No, I'm talking about on a collective level, people, not your individual relationships. All right, stop being selfish. It's not always just about you. The collective, all of us. So, reading this William Lynch thing, and I think my next part is going to be really diving deep into how they broke down the man, like how they broke us down, how they used us to bring in toxicity and to bring in the toxic masculine, to really highlight the toxic masculine for us. And you know what? And I think in many ways, the toxic masculine, it needed to be highlighted, right? So, but I do think that with whatever, when I read this to you guys, when I go over this with you guys, I'm sorry, I feel like I came back. Did you see me just lose myself? Like I kind of just... All right, well... Whoa. Anyway, let's talk. I kind of just like zoned out a little bit. It kind of... Anyway, so... It says, when she's fully submitted, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. So, when the feminine is fully submitted to the programming, we will now train our offspring to fully submit to the programming, and submit to labor as soon as they become of age. So right here, they're talking about why the feminine is so important. And it's because, again, we are passing and transmuting this programming. So the first thing that needs to happen is that we need to stop passing on this programming. In order for us to stop passing this programming along, it means we need to correct this programming within ourselves. We need to stop demasculating the masculine. We need to, granted, the masculine needs to stop being toxic, okay? But I do acknowledge as myself as a woman, and as I said before, again, I come from domestic violence, I come from, abuse, and I know that, and I'm not saying in my home, I meant, my relationships, my past relationships, but, just because I don't ever want to discredit my dad. Sorry, guys. I love my dad. I don't want anyone to ever think my dad ever hit me or anything. But, I truly do think that the feminine, now that we are rising, now that we are stepping into our power, part of that shadow work is acknowledging our toxicity. And, acknowledging that some of us may have grown bitter in the process of fighting for the freedom that we have longed for. And it's okay. We've been through a lot. We've dealt with a lot with the patriarchy. It's only normal that we develop some kind of resentment. But it doesn't have to be that way. And there's a reason why we are waking up before they are. The same way that they submitted us first to the programming so that we can impact them, that is exactly what is happening right now. They are submitting us first to the awakening. We are being submitted first to the awakening. Do you guys notice that most of your coaches that are out there coaching are women? Do you guys notice that most of the people who are out here doing the light work, and I'm not discrediting men at all. I see some male coaches bomb. You guys are doing amazing. Those male coaches who are really in touch and really balanced deep inside, they're killing it, man. They're killing it. They're spreading truth. And I have a few that I love. But this is the feminine time. This is the time for the feminine. This is the time for the divine feminine to rise within all of us. Males, this applies to you because this is the time for you to get in touch with your divine feminine. Toxic masculinity comes from an excess of masculinity. Right? There's too much masculine. It's not balanced with your feminine. So for you, masculine, balancing means getting more in touch with your emotions, being more honest, more real about emotions, and being okay with embracing emotion. And for the feminine, it's about, learning that yes, we get our independence, yes, we get our freedom, but we need to be cautious in what light we're stepping into when it comes to that independence and that freedom. Right? And make sure that the intention, there's the right intention. Are we stepping into that independence and that freedom out of spite? Are we stepping into that independence and that freedom, to prove something? To who? Those are questions that, I've been battling with. And I've had to confront in my own shadow work is, who am I? Who? So it's going to take all of us women waking up, all of us feminine waking up to help the rest of the world wake up. That's the conclusion that I drew. But anyway, guys, so this was my uncovering of William Lynch stuff. The research continues. I'm having so much fun on this journey. I hope you guys are, having fun, with me and living vicariously, because I literally love sharing this experience with you guys. It makes me happy to be able to, have a community to share this with. So it's awesome. It means a lot. But I'm sending so much love your way, guys. I can't wait to tell you guys about my day 22, because that one gets a little bit weird. A little more weird than usual. But anyway,